Hi, good evening, Beverly. Thank you for having me on the program. Speaking of which, the response of the people living in Taiwan is actually quite interesting because for the past 2 days, Taiwan has actually experienced torrential rains, like really, really heavy downpours that has actually caused like heavy floodings and landslides. So, the locals, a lot of their focus is actually on more of this, how bad the weather is and all the incidents that's happening right now. But no doubt there are actually still people who are watching closely on how Xi's remarks at the 20th National Party Congress. So, there are some discussions, people are actually very concerned, but actually the general gist of what we are seeing right now is that people are saying that, whatever Xi has said is actually quite repetitive. There's nothing new. And it's quite a fact because whatever he said is actually quite similar to the white paper on the Taiwan question, which was actually released by the Chinese government in August. Sort of like people are saying how Xi is actually sticking to the line. Obviously, it sounds very harsh on Taiwan, but actually, people are not really like overly worried that a war might happen within, let's say, tomorrow or the next few months.
What has the government said about not ruling out force? You point out that we know that this has been his view for some time, but reiterating it like that as he expects to be taking yet another term of office must be troubling.
Yes, indeed. So the Taiwan's presidential office spokesperson actually released a press statement pretty quick after whatever Xi said during the party congress. So I'll just quote what he said is that he reiterated that the Republic of China is a sovereign and independent country, and the Taiwanese people support democracy and freedom. Note that what the government is trying to do is to stress the difference in government systems, so pointing out Taiwan is a democratic and freedom-loving nation, and also point out that mainstream public opinion clearly expressed the rejection of one country, two systems, and that's obviously referring to the Hong Kong issue. So he also stressed that Taiwan's position is very firm, and there is actually no concession in territorial sovereignty, no compromise for democracy and freedom, and confrontation is definitely not an option for both sides of the strait. And he actually went on to quote what President Tsai Ing-wen said in her National Day speech just a week earlier, where she stressed that people in Taiwan or the Taiwanese government is actually willing to work with Beijing to find a mutually acceptable way to maintain peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait under the principle of rationality, equality, and mutual respect. Because we are actually saying is that even though the Chinese government point out that they do hope to have talks with Taiwan, but there's actually a lot of preconditions, and what the Taiwanese government said that we are actually open to more talks between both sides, but it is important that there is no preconditions, no pre-conclusions, if both sides do come to the table. And the spokesperson also stressed that maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and the region is the shared responsibility by both sides on the Cross-strait, Beverly.
So what might, it look like to have those talks be meaningful, given he reiterates that his aim is peaceful reunification as a starting point? It would not seem as if that Taiwan would have much of a negotiating point.
Yes, it is. So what the Taiwanese government is also stressing that the future of Taiwan is actually should be decided by the Taiwanese people, and no doubt that is what Xi said in his remark, that is totally impossible. The Chinese actually believe, or the PRC government believes, that the future of the Taiwan question should be decided by the Chinese people, and he is actually referring to the 1.4 billion, not actually the 3.5 million people living on the island of Taiwan. So actually we do see that the Taiwanese Premier Su Zhenchang said pretty strong words yesterday during one of his doorstops. He actually went on to criticize Xi, that how he should actually put his focus on the number of criticisms that Xi has actually received before the party congress and some of these protests that are happening in Beijing, instead of putting his finger on the Taiwan issue.
Yeah. A lot of what he is doing is for domestic reasons, and obviously because of the the financial difficulty they are in, his insistence on the sort of zero COVID policy. Has Taiwan been comforted by the show of support that they've received in recent months about their maintaining their independence?
I would say that with the more countries supporting Taiwan, no doubt, it actually do send a very strong message, not only to the Taiwanese government, but to the Taiwanese people, because people in Taiwan are peace-loving, freedom-loving people. And, people in the streets actually just want to keep the status quo, most of them, and there are actually numbers to support that, be it like the polls, done by many different of this think tanks. It do show that people in Taiwan really do not want a war, and people here do want to keep the status quo, meaning that most people actually see that the Republic of China, which is basically referring to Taiwan, is already an independent sovereign country, even though it is not largely recognized by many countries in the world. And what we are actually more worried, and what people are actually having discussions right now, is whether Taiwan is adequately prepared for any incoming war or any possible conflict, because no doubt, in terms of the strength of defense between China and Taiwan, there's a very large difference. And also there's also a lot of discussions on the conscription of national service in Taiwan, because obviously 4 months national service is totally not enough, to prepare the men, if war do break out, sadly.
Yeah. Really interesting times. As always, good to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.